Good evening, San Francisco Theosophical Lodge and friends. Welcome to the Art of Dying Well and Planning for the Good Death. I'm Courtney Sheets, and I'm here to speak with you about how we can plan for the end to create a better situation for ourselves and our loved ones during the dying process and in the aftermath when we're gone. Thank you to the Lodge for inviting me to speak through your platform tonight. I'm honored to be here. I also give thanks to those in the modern death positive movement who came before me for opening this door to make it a less taboo subject. I believe these conversations are necessary to heal the disconnect, wounding, and chaos that can come from the result of our collective and individual death denial. Tonight, I will touch on the essentials of end-of-life planning and suggest some steps that we can take to deepen our relationship with death wherever we may fall on that spectrum of denial or preparation. After this presentation, I'm happy to be a resource for anyone looking for recommendations in whatever area interests you the most or whatever you need. I can also help you in your end-of-life planning process or in anything that has to do with getting your affairs in order. Please leave your comments below or questions, and I will answer them at the end of the presentation. So this song was recently shared to me by my friend Richard, and it's called The Art of Dying by George Harrison. A very eloquent song about what we'll be talking about tonight. And the two lines that struck me the most were, "Nothing in this life that I've been trying can equal or surpass the art of dying." And this really sums up for me why I'm on the path of becoming a death doula and working as an end-of-life planner and facing my own death anxiety and fears that I've had my whole life, and also my deep curiosity about what happens after we die. So a little bit about my story and where I came from. I was born on a farm in the middle of a cornfield, and right after I graduated high school, I studied at the nearby university and graduated with degrees in psychology and communications. I then departed for the West as soon as I could, and I became involved with the healing arts communities in Oregon and Arizona and California. And I specialized in Zen Shiatsu for the last 20 years. I also have a master's in theology from New College of California that was based in San Francisco. And this is the study of religion, philosophy, spirituality, ritual, and culture from an embodied and feminine perspective. Right now, I'm focusing on art, and I'm in Southern Texas. And I received my end-of-life coaching and death doula certification in 2021 through Going with Grace, led by Alua Arthur. And since then, I've taken numerous workshops and online seminars and virtual conferences and done a lot of my own independent research on many of these subjects I'm going to touch on tonight. So my own relationship with death, like many people, has been complicated. And the first memory I have is of my great-grandmother visiting me the day that she died. And I was about 8 years old at the time. And I would say that initiated my curiosity about what happens after we die. And I also had an out-of-body near-death experience in my late teenage years. So that was another point in time that proved to me that there was consciousness outside of my physical body. And then I would say I entered into my 20s and 30s not really talking about death much or wanting to think about it or all the details and logistics of what happens when we die. And then around 2014, when I was in Brooklyn, I started volunteering at the Morbid Anatomy Museum, and I learned a lot about Victorian mourning culture, funerary art, and more subjects about mediumship. I've always been interested in that, but that opened my eyes a little bit to the different ways that we used to care for our dead and mourn them. That's changed drastically in modern times. And then shortly after that, my mother died, and she had had cancer for a while, but I was still very surprised and shocked when this happened because she seemed like she was doing well and that she was in remission. So this was the first time that the gravity of what it means to be with someone you're that close to and watch them die. Because I was at her bedside with my siblings and her husband at the time, and she did have a peaceful death, but there was a lot unspoken and unplanned for logistically. We didn't take care of certain details like a legal will, and you would think that would have taught me my lesson then, but I think I still had further to go. And my dad passed away in late 2018, followed by my cousin and my soul sister from an accidental overdose. And both of these deaths together were shocking and unexpected, and further initiated me onto this path of looking at death and my fears and anxiety and really experiencing a level of deep grief that I had not before my mother. I had loved ones die and been sad, but this was at a whole nother level. And it also gave me experience planning home funerals and memorials and taking care of people's possessions and lives after they're gone. So, you might be wondering what a death doula is. A lot of people think that when I say I'm becoming a death doula, they think I'm in hospice or I'm a grief counselor. So those are two things death doulas don't really do. We do sit vigil with the family and with the person dying. We can focus on that, or that can be one of our specialties. But it's non-medical care and support. My focus, however, right now is helping people create end-of-life plans. And that can be at any point in time in your life from 18 years old until 85, and preferably while you're still cognizant and healthy. But I work with the full spectrum of people on that scale of healthy to sick. And then we also help them create ideal deaths under the circumstances they're in if they know they're going to die. And we also help wrap up affairs of the departed one's life with their family or loved ones. So what is a good death? Well, a good death is getting out alive, which I take to mean as you lived your life to your fullest and your death is not prolonged or it doesn't have a lot of suffering. It's as quick and painless as possible. And you are able to talk with your family or your friends or the people you care about your death, and really look at your fears and anxiety around it and your spiritual practice around it, if there is one. And I feel like your death should align with your values, wishes, and ethics just as much as your life does. So, I listed some reasons here of why you might want to create a When I Die file or end of life plan. And they're pretty obvious. It's the right thing to do for everyone in your world. It's going to help eliminate chaos and stress that's not necessary while people are grieving and planning funerals and memorials and moving their lives forward without you. And it can save quite a bit of time and money. So surprisingly, nearly 70% of eligible adults in the United States do not have a legally valid will or a trust. And 55% of people over the age of 55 do not have one. So these are some of the top excuses I hear, some of the ones I've had myself, and you might recognize some of them from your own life and outlook. The thing is, it's a lot of procrastination and a lot of fear, and it's not necessarily a fun, exciting thing to do, but it saves so much heartache for yourself and for your loved ones to just do as much as you can before you go. Because everyone has assets, pets, people, causes, legacies, and plans that matter to them that you need to have documented. And it is my feeling and the feeling of other professionals that everyone over the age of 18 needs a will or a trust. So I'm going to touch on the first part of end-of-life planning, which is advanced directives and what that entails. It's a designation of a healthcare agent and medical power of attorney, and you need to have it in writing, signed by 2 witnesses or a notary. That's the most important thing. It needs to be in writing, and there needs to be copies made. And then you want to fill out an advanced care directive for your state, or a 5 Wishes, which is a nonprofit organization that created their own extensive, detailed comfort and care plan that specifies how you want to be treated in the event that you are incapacitated or living with a serious illness or a slower death. This is also called a living will. You want to have a post or a most form, a medical release authorization, and a DNR. These are some alternative ways of dying that people might want to incorporate into their advanced directives. VSED is voluntary stopping of eating and drinking, which is legal in all 50 states. It's a very systemized and strict protocol. Most people die before the 15-day waiting period is up after the first oral request. Unfortunately, there's also medical aid in dying, which is legal in 11 jurisdictions, and that has had a lot of misinformation over the years about what that entails. You also want to look at dementia, Alzheimer's, and mental health care issues for powers of attorney, and just special items that are involved with each of those areas. And all adults over 21 should have a living will and a designated healthcare agent. And those living with a serious illness or over the age of 70 should have a pulse and a DNR completed. It's preferable to travel with copies of these or have a card in your wallet to signify who people need to call in case of an accident or an emergency. So the first steps to creating an end-of-life plan. I have a lot of free resources on my website, one of which is a values worksheet that can help you define what living well means for you. I think most of us here tonight probably know what that is, but just in case you need some help with that, there's that resource. And the second thing is you want to decide who you want speaking for you when you cannot speak for yourself. So that's the designated healthcare agent. Then complete your living will, which is the 5 wishes, or your advanced state form, which is available on any of the government websites in your state. Usually will have them. I have gathered all of the different forms for each state I did workbooks for, so they're in the workbooks that I created. And then you want to have 2 witnesses sign according to the laws of your state, and then make copies and share them with your loved ones, and have one easily found in your home. So some of the other I cover in the End-of-Life Workbook are the financials. I go over ways to avoid probate, the differences between irrevocable and revocable trust, and then I also have resources that you can go to create your wills and trusts for free or very little money that are vetted and authorized by lawyers, legal professionals. And we go over possessions, property instructions, dependent care, gathering of important documents and records, passwords and accounts, legacy, ideas, sacred vigil plans, home funeral laws, and much, much more. So one of the things I'm really interested in is sustainable disposition. And these are just a few of the more common ones. One that's got a lot of attention recently is the recompose, which is human composting. And right now it's only legal in Colorado, Oregon, and Washington. It was denied legalization in California, but hopefully they'll get it passed at some point soon. And right now they're trying to get it through New York legislation. But this woman shown in the picture here, Katarina Spade, I believe is her name, she invented a process, she's a scientist, a biologist, to decompose the body within 30 days and turn it into 3 cubic yards of organic soil. And then at the end of that time period, loved ones come and get the soil and they can do what they wish with it in whatever ritual or ceremonial use they would like to have for it, or just put it in their garden. And of course, green burial is probably the most eco-friendly option there is out there still, and it's legal in probably every state, and some states even allow you to bury on your own land. So this is a photo I found on the internet that I thought reflected one of my sacred vigil visions. I would like to be in a clawfoot bathtub with candles, outdoors, with beautiful greenery around me when I go, if possible. That is one scenario. And I've written this down with detail about what kind of music I would like and what kind of aromas, what I want the energy to be like if possible. This is a Menso Mori that I created in a workshop with Morbid Anatomy last year. And researchers have boiled down 4 main fears that people have, which are, how is it going to feel as I'm dying? And of course, we don't want to have it be painful. And also, what's going to happen to my soul or my spirit when my body is no longer working. And then, of course, there's the fear of missing out with family and friends, and a fear of life not fully lived. 5 tasks of living to prepare for dying at peace. We've already touched on some of these, but finding meaning in suffering and transcendence is a big one, I think, and building a personal relationship with death and just looking at your death fears and anxiety and denial can help tremendously. And I'm not sure if we ever really do away with it, but we can. I do think we can lessen the impact of our anxiety. And making an end of life plan is really important for leaving behind an ethical situation for your loved ones, or even people that you don't know that may have to deal with your estate or your body in your funeral plans. These are some tangible actions you can take. I'm sure you've all heard of death cafes, but you can go on their website and find a time virtually or in person where people gather and just talk about death without any agenda. I have a list of recommendations on my website for lots of different documentaries and films and books, and that's only scratching the surface. And then I've just listed a few other ones like Death Over Dinner and the Death Deck and volunteering at a hospice. These are some of the services I'm offering right now. I have the End-of-Life Workbooks that I created over the last year and a half. And I have them digitally and also physically. And these are the states I created them for. They're based on each state's laws. And they go over all the subjects we just covered. But all of that information is on my website as well. And I'm offering a planning package where I am with you during the process of beginning your planning process. And it's a 3-hour consultation session. We can divide it into different times, like 3 1-hours or 2 1.5-hour sessions with 2 follow-up calls. And I also do decluttering and death cleaning, and you can hire me hourly. I also create memorial portraits for pets and people. And tonight I wanted to offer a discount for everyone here on the call, and it's Transcend 50 for 50% off workbooks and packages. These are some of the tenets of the Death Positive movement. It's created by the Order of the Good Death organization, founded by Caitlin Doty, who's a famous mortician. She's written a lot of books and made some very entertaining videos about her life in the funeral industry and what she's learned and her philosophy. She uses a lot of humor. She's really great. I recommend checking her out. So this is my contact information. Feel free to text me, call, email. I have both of my websites here for my art and my death doula practice. And then I also have some of my Instagram accounts. This is Eyes of Courtney Wynn is my personal account, Outrider is my gallery, and then Menso Mori is my, I guess you could say it's my death doula account. But I really just post art that I find inspiring to remind people of their inevitable end on a daily basis or as much as possible. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate everyone tuning in tonight, and I look forward to hearing from you. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can respond to any comments. But feel free to contact me at any time. And thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.